All right, welcome to the presentation, everybody. I am Trevor, and we're going to do some Volusion training today. I've got a little PowerPoint presentation I want to do with you guys, and so let me start it there. You guys see that? It should be full screen now for you guys. Is that good for you that are here live with me? You all see that full screen? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So this is titled "Ready to Launch My Website?" with a question mark. What you need to do before you launch or go live, and how that's defined. Um, let's first go to the summary. We're going to talk about everything involved in making sure your website is launched or live. Okay. And there's lots of steps here. We're just going to briefly talk about products, categories, design, payment, tax, shipping, information pages, the company section of a website builder, running a test order, and then when you start marketing in that process. So if you didn't get a good look at this, we're going to go through each slide, and it's going to make up what we do. So when you've got a website, if you're trying to decide if you're ready to launch, and I guess before we discuss this first slide, let's discuss what it means to launch a website. Okay, if you're going to launch a website, you're basically saying that you're prepared and ready to have anyone from friends, family, and random people on the internet to find your site and buy from you. That you're actually ready for that. That's what being live or being launched means. What it doesn't mean is if your domain is connected, so I can go to www.yourdomain.com and I can find it, that doesn't mean you're live necessarily. Sure, it means you're on the internet, but guess what? If you've just started this process and you haven't done even a lick of marketing, nobody's going to find your site anyway. So you don't have to be concerned about that. Being live or launching the site means that you're ready to get visitors. It doesn't really have anything to do with whether or not you can type in your domain name, although that's part of launching. So if you currently are working on a site, but you can go to your domain name and find yourself online, don't stress, okay? You're not going to get visitors until you start marketing. Google's not going to rank you high until you start marketing. So today's training is about, okay, what do we have to have done on our site before you're prepared and ready to actually, quote unquote, officially launch, okay? So number one, we have to look at the products real quick. I always say this in all of our trainings. We have a goal of around 100 to 150 products on your site, more if you want, although I wouldn't do too much more. I've seen a few of you guys go a little overboard and get up to 1,000 products before you launch your site. I think in most cases, 99.9% of cases, I don't think it's wise to do that. It's tough to manage 1,000 products. It's much more reasonable to manage 100 to 150, and why not work up to 1,000 as you go or more, right? These sites are capable of carrying thousands of products, but when you're brand new and just starting, between 100 and 150 before you officially launch is ample. Okay, number two, we've talked about this and we talked about it last week. Use Amazon or other retailers to fill in the gaps. A lot of you guys stop yourself from getting into marketing because you say, well, I don't have enough product. I'm not ready to show this to friends and family because, one of my sections of my site is very thin and scarce and it doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. Use Amazon or some other retailer and pad it a little bit. Bring in some product from that retailer so you fill in the gap. Number three, you don't need to have everything to start. Remember, you're a startup. I mean, if you look at any company who first gets started, they're running a little thin, right? Most companies don't have, especially in the retail industry, they don't have such a full, complete line of product when they first launch. It just doesn't happen, right? You don't need a perfect inventory line before you launch. And number four, don't stress about the price too much. There's really no reason to go out there and meticulously go through your competitors' prices and compare yourself to them at this point. There's a time and a place for that, but before you launch is probably not that time. Okay. By the way, if you have any comments, comment for me. If you want me to stop and talk about anything, we can. So that's your products, your categories. So I guess in short, your products need to be done or done to that point before we consider launching. Categories we want to talk about for a minute. I've seen this. Number one, we only need as many as our customers will find useful. So, for example, if you only have 150 products, you don't need 45 categories. I've seen a few you guys go a little overboard on your categories too. You have this really elaborate list of categories and subcategories and subcategories and shop by price and shop by brand, and you got all these categories, but you've only got like 100 products, and you almost have more categories than you have products, and it's really, really confusing. If your goal is to have around 100 to 150 products, let's have 10, 12 categories and call it good to start. Otherwise, it gets way too confusing. You don't need a category skeleton built into your site for a site that's going to have 15,000 products when you only have 15 products, in other words, okay? Number two, you can always build more as you go and reorganize as you go. So your categories and your products should certainly evolve over time, right? Yeah, I guess we talked about number three. Related to number one, make sure you don't create the skeleton structure for a site that should have 15,000 when you only have 40. Okay, we already said that. Okay, so categories should just sort of go along with our products. Now let's talk about design for a minute. A lot of you guys who are sort of working on some of your own design get stuck here, and you shouldn't. Number one, your site should have the basics of good design. It should have some kind of a logo. You want a homepage banner of some sort. When you're working on Volusion, you want to make sure your template that you use is a 2.0 template, which all of you guys who have had sites designed for you follows. They follow this criteria. A 2.0 template just means it's responsive. It'll adapt to the screen that it's being viewed on. So if I'm looking at your site on a phone or a tablet or a computer monitor, it should adapt well and look good. That's a 2.0 type template. D, you want an appropriate color scheme. Those four elements right there, at its simplest level, is all you need to go ahead and launch your site. Number two, it's a 1.0 version of your site, so treat it that way. If we tried to fix every single little bug and make every single page look like it's had a ton of custom design work done on it, you'd never get your site up. Your site will evolve over time, just like any software program or company has evolved over time. Imagine if Microsoft tried to fix all of their bugs every single time they released a new Windows program to the world, right? They'd never release it. There's always bugs still when they release these programs, but they get worked out over time. Number three, remember that all your website is for is to do one thing, guys. The whole point of your website, it's an advertisement, and it's designed to take a visitor, someone who's coming to visit our site, and it's designed to take that visitor and get them to buy something, right? All your website is an ad. Now, a lot of times you guys you'll stress about color scheme and, is my logo really the right brand for my site? Or, you'll obsess over the look and design and setup. First of all, if you've had a site designed for you by our designers, I can guarantee you it's good enough to convert visitors into buyers at a high level. And if you're doing your own site, let your coach review it. But that's all it's for, right? And so it's going to be impossible for you to ever say how good of a converting site it is until you get traffic on it. After all, a lot of what we see as aesthetically pleasing to our eyes is really just very subjective, right? What we might think looks good may not look good to somebody else. And so, our designers can give you opinions. I can give you opinions. You can get opinions from your friends. But I'm telling you right now, The only opinion that really matters is the opinion of your customer. So we got to get our site up and out there, and we can make changes and fixes along the way. Okay. I know so many of you guys get stuck on this, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have a good design, but you can't run into that analysis paralysis that we've talked about, right? You want to research and redesign and change and reorganize until nothing ever really gets done, right? Barbara, you say, I think my color scheme is a little too feminine for my categories, and maybe needs to be more active, or maybe I need a more active homepage banner. Is that something I can do myself? Yeah, these are things that you can do yourself for sure. But I guess the question I would pose to you, Barbara, when you make that observation is, it may look that way to you, but is your website converting? Because guess what? If it's converting and doing well, don't change it right now. And if you don't know because you don't have enough traffic yet, don't change it. You shouldn't worry too much about that, because you need to get visitors to tell you that. If you get visitors and your website is converting really well, don't change anything about it. Just focus on marketing. So that may be true on your site, Barbara, but I wouldn't do anything about it right now. If I were you, I would be working on my marketing. If you're getting visitors and your site isn't converting, that's a different story. Then you ought to consider tinkering with your design a little bit, and we can help you do that for sure. I think we just need to adjust our focus just a little bit. Whoops. Sorry, I just clicked back a couple of slides. Number 4, design and branding can change as we go. Okay, so that's design. Now let's talk payment for just a second. Okay, we talked payment a couple of weeks ago. Have either PayPal set up on your site or have your merchant account from a bank set up on your site. I'm not going to go into detail on the pros and cons of each because that's done in another training, but let's make sure your payment is set up. That's pretty self-explanatory. Your tax also needs to be set up before you launch. Make sure the tax section is complete if your store charges or if your state charges sales tax. Some of you guys live in states that don't require sales tax, in which case you do not have to set it up in your store. If you are living in a state that requires sales tax, make sure you get a state resale license or a state tax ID so you can charge tax legally. Okay? I'm going to go through these a little more quickly. Shipping, so stop me if you want to talk more about one. Shipping, there's actually a shipping section inside the web builder, which I'll show you here in just a second. We're going to be doing a training in some detail on it real soon. But for most of you guys who are offering free shipping, you want to make sure that the free shipping option in your shipping section is selected. And all of your products need to make sure they've been selected as free shipping products. I'll show you how to do that just momentarily. But in short, you need to make sure your shipping is set up correctly. If you're charging shipping on your site, then there's some other sections within the shipping section you've got to set up. But we encourage most of you guys to do free shipping, so that section should be pretty self-explanatory. I'll go back to that more in here in just a minute. You also need your info pages done. So that would include your About Us should be done. You should have a Contact Us on your page. You should probably have some sort of a privacy policy, which Volusion actually has a default one that works fine. You should have a shipping page. What I didn't add there is we need a return page. Okay, all those informational pages, those should be on your site. At a minimum, they should be in your footer section at the very bottom of your site. So if you don't have all those pages completed, then no, you're not ready to launch. You need to make sure you get those done. And if you're not sure how to do them, either review our trainings or talk to your coach about it. This is a little more high level. I don't want to get into too much detail on some of this stuff. There's a company section inside Volusion, which I'll show you here in just a minute. As soon as we get off the PowerPoint, I'll show you this. You want to make sure it's accurate, and you want to make sure your notification emails are set up correctly. A notification email would be the email you guys get when a sale is made. That way you don't have to check your store all the time for sales. You can just wait for emails, and Volusion will tell you every single time you get a sale. So we're gonna look at that here momentarily. Um, Actually, before we finish this up, let's look at this right now before we go into test order. So let me come off of that for just 1 second, and let me grab, if you don't mind, let me grab a Volusion site here. We're gonna grab this one. Hold on, I know you guys can't see this yet. I'm on another screen. Okay. Here you go. So here's a Volusion builder. This is a test Volusion site we'll use for now. I was talking about shipping a few minutes ago. Under settings, you have a shipping section right here. I know this is probably kind of small, so let me zoom in. Settings and then shipping. And within this section, you need to make sure that you have free shipping activated right here. Over here at the right, it should say active, and you should have some sort of free shipping setting here, ready to rock and roll. Okay. I won't cover how to do this in detail. I think most of your sites come default with free shipping set up correctly, but you'll want to just come in here and make sure that it is. Make sure you select active, and you should be good to go. After all, shipping's not going to be really complex if you're doing it free. It gets complex when you start doing live rates, flat rates, special rates, which we can consider doing. I just wouldn't. Most of you guys should just do free shipping right off the bat. Okay. So this is your shipping section. Now let's go over here to company. So under settings, company is right here. And I want you to make sure you guys have this section set up correctly. So you're going to want under company name, legal name, and website name, you need to have the domain name of your site right here. I would do your domain name for all of those. Company address, you actually should put in some type of address, probably just your home address temporarily, because you need an address to show up on your invoices, and that's where the invoices are going to pull the address from, is whatever you put in the company address. So let's make sure that gets done. Organization type is not that big of a deal, but pick something that's close to it. Don't stress over it. Just pick something close. This is the one that's important, your email, okay? Now, where it says email, you've got kind of like your default email that you're going to want to put up here. This should be an email that's just for your guys' business. Could be a Gmail, which is fine. But you don't want it to be like one of your normal emails that gets cluttered with spam and stuff, because every time you get an order, you're going to get an email sent there that's going to say, hey, you got an order, you need to go fulfill it. Well, if that gets overlooked, you're going to have an angry customer. So make sure that you use an email that's pretty free and clear. Maybe it's one that you just created for the business and you use it in that section. Okay? That's what I meant by making sure the company info was all set up. You can set up your time zone. Everything else should be set up correctly here. So that's the company info I was telling you guys about. Okay? Questions about that or no? Leave me any comments if you've got questions there. Okay, so let's go back here to running a test order. When I say run a test order, I mean if you've done all these things that we've talked about so far, get on your site and basically run an order yourself. Have maybe a friend or a family member there with you, and have them go through the process of adding something to their cart and buying it and trying to check out. And actually paying for it too. So number 1 says don't treat your first customers like the guinea pig. Test on your friends and family first. You can even test it yourself. The rule is, though, number 3, if using PayPal, don't use the same PayPal account that's attached to your site. So if you're accepting PayPal as payment, don't try to buy something using that same PayPal account. An error will occur. It won't actually let that go through. So either use a credit card or have a friend there that they can use a different PayPal account, or maybe one of your separate PayPal accounts. Try that. Number two, make sure you're logged out of the builder. So if you're logged in as an admin while you're trying to do this, the order won't work. You need to log out completely so you're looking at your site just like you would be as a customer, and try to go through the process of buying something. You should get a confirmation email. That money should end up hitting your PayPal account. You kind of just want to test all of that so you see what it's like, so you know what to do when you get your first order, right? And if something's amiss, you can fix it there before having to fix it with a real customer, okay? Valerie, say if you have a different email you look at all the time, can you redirect to that email so as to not miss a sale? Yeah, you can set up forwards. Yep. Most email providers have some kind of a forwarding system that you can use. That would work, sure. Number four, make sure everything works. Payment goes through. You get order notification. Basically just what we said. Okay. Now, if you have done everything, you've ran your test order, I would recommend really quick, maybe just having your coach do a quick peruse of your site, okay? But make sure you've done all of this first. And then email your coach and say, hey, I've gone through this launching checklist, got everything done, have a look. And your coach will have a look, make sure everything looks good. If everything looks good at that point, then guess what? At that point, you can put yourself into launched status. You're launched. There's not a button you click. I think a lot of you guys think that you have to like click a publish button or a launch button. Not on this software, you don't. If you've done the things we just showed you how to do, you're launched. You're live. You're ready to roll. And the definition that we gave earlier is that, I guess is just written right here, right? The term launch just means that you're ready to have traffic come to your site. You actually want people to see it, right? More than likely, your site has been live on the internet all this time, which is what we said earlier, but it doesn't matter. Nobody knows about you. To launch your site really means this. Number one and number two, the steps that we've covered today are complete. Number two, you're wanting people to come to your site, so you begin moving into the next phase, which is marketing. Okay, let me go to the next slide here. Just a couple of things to caution you on while you're doing this. Be careful of a few things, and I've listed those things for you. Number one, be careful of fake orders when you first start. That's misspelled right here, creative. Let me go back to that. Sorry, that's supposed to say creative with a K. It's created. There shouldn't be a V there in the middle of it. Creative is a company you need to be careful of, and any other Washington-based marketing or web design companies you need to be worried about and cautious of. It's not that these companies aren't legit, but they'll try to sell you a bill of goods that undermines what you've already done, or they try to minimize the value of what you've already been doing with us specifically, so as to make you fearful and think you've got to sign up for their services. They'll tell you things like your site is not Google compliant, they'll say. And not just these companies, not just Creative or these Washington companies, any web design or web marketing company that can find that you have this new site, you're a target, right? Because if I own a web design firm or a marketing firm, I want to look for all the sites out there that are brand new, because if I can find a brand new design site, you are a good target for me, because I can try to sell you something, right? I can try to tell you that you need this or that on your site, or you need additional marketing, or you're never going to rank in Google, so you got to sign up with my services. Guys, these companies, I'm not saying they're not legit, but they'll say what they have to say to get you to spend more money. At this point, when you're here with us and you're working in our program, We'll make sure you're Google compliant. We'll make sure your site functions the way it's supposed to function. Talk to your coach if you have any doubt about that. I can't tell you how many emails I still get. I get emails on my sites that from web design companies that tell me I need to change something about my site. But little do they know I'm already converting at an extremely high rate. I don't need to change anything about my site. But see, they'll tell me what they think I'm going to want to hear or need to hear for them to sell their products to me. So that's a word of caution to you guys. Unsolicited emails, random people that call that sort of pretend to be like us or whatever. You just have to be super careful. I think you're a target when you create a new site. And if you're ever in doubt, contact your coach about it. Ask them. We'll direct you, okay? But these are the wait, but Trevor, what ifs, but wait kind of questions I get, okay? Number one, I'm not going to launch. So these are basically my excuses from my clients, right? I don't want to launch yet because my blog isn't ready. I don't care. Still launch. You need to get into marketing. You can do your blog as you go. Number two, my social media isn't ready. I don't know how to work my Facebook or my Twitter. I shouldn't launch. I got to learn that first. No, you need to launch now. You'll learn that as you go. Don't use that as an excuse either. Or number three, this is the big one, and this is what a lot of you guys will say to me. You'll say, well, wait a minute. I don't have my keyword research done. I haven't done my SEO. I'm working on search engine optimization, and I'm not ready. Not everything's done yet. I can't launch. Yes, you can, and you should. The SEO and the marketing should be something that happens after you launch your site. It doesn't have to happen before, and shouldn't, because it takes a long time to do that SEO. I mean, I can't tell you over the years, luckily this hasn't happened often, but I have had a few of you guys that insist that you've got to have 1,000 products on your site, and you got to have your SEO done, and you need to understand every little bit of your site before you launch. That's nonsense. You need to, we're not trying to get you to launch your site prematurely, but we are trying to help you guys get up and going, because a lot of the learning that takes place in this happens when you're in business and you're live. So we want to get you to that point as soon as possible. Number four, I don't have enough suppliers and products. No, that's not an excuse, right? We've talked about that. Or number five, any other excuse, and we talked about analysis paralysis, guys. We don't want to give ourselves excuses not to progress. I'm telling you guys, you should be progressing only with the checklist I gave you, and everything after that can come while you're doing marketing. If you want to get more products on your site because you're uncomfortable with only having 100 or so, great. Start marketing and be adding products as you go. If you're uncomfortable with the fact that you've got this Facebook page that you don't know how to use, or you don't even have a Facebook page and you're telling your friends and family about it, that's okay. We'll show you how to do that while you're up and you're doing your marketing. This stuff can go in tandem. Not everything needs to be done before. And just to define that for you guys that are newer, SEO just means search engine optimization. It's what you do on and off your site to get it to rank high in Google. Okay. All right. So that's it. Just let me go back to this summary page real quick, and I want you to stare at this list and make sure that you memorize it, or at least take good notes on it, because this is the list of things that needs to be done on your site before we launch. Basic products, simple categories, simple design, payment setup, tax setup, shipping setup, information pages done, company information setup, test order ran, and you're ready to rock and roll. Now, I know I've glossed over these and I haven't covered them in detail, but see, they've been covered in detail in some of our other trainings. The only thing that I don't think has been covered in a lot of detail is a couple of the info pages, which we'll do, and the shipping section. Everything else has been. Test orders, pretty self-explanatory. Everything else has been covered in pretty good detail. I guess design we haven't talked as much about. That's an area that we'll focus on a little bit more. But just due to the fact that I get this question a lot about launching and going live, I thought I'd put this on a video for the record so you guys understand just exactly what that means. Okay? Guys, is that clear? questions about that, comments? Let me know if I need to cover anything here in a little more detail. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and we'll finish up, and we'll let you guys go enjoy your day. And if you're newer, Michelle, you're an example of that, right? I don't expect this to be super clear. If you've been doing a site for a little while and you're on one of these steps, this should be just a little more clear for sure. Okay, yeah, getting a lot of good feedback. Most of you guys are saying pretty good, pretty clear. I'll give you. Oh, Bruce, as far as payment is concerned, I got an email from your bank or your merchant provider again, and I haven't heard back. I emailed her this morning, so still waiting to hear back. Okay. We can stay in touch via email about that. Okay. Well, anyway, guys, good. Sounds like good review. Pretty clear. Glad to hear that. We'll be doing more Volusion next week, so come along. I do have on my docket to do more design stuff, more shipping stuff, more information page stuff. I want to make sure we've taught this stuff in abundance, that there's no question here that we can get to the point of publishing and going live as soon as possible, okay? All right, you guys are great. We will see you guys next time. Thanks for coming along.